All right, Black Box Radio. We are in the box. This is the final interview of the week, and we got power. That's all I got to say. We got some power at the last of this week. My name is Queen. I am a host of Black Box Radio. We are a media platform for Black excellence, and we disseminate information to the Black community. We platform Black people, and we expose the world to Black genius. We're based in Baltimore, but we also humanize our experience to other communities who have no clue what being Black in America is. And that's very important for them to come from an authentic space and where we can speak to each other and speak to the world about our greatness because we are very great. And so I just want you guys to know I am so excited. I mean, super duper excited. I've been walking after this man and he don't even know it. I've been looking for him for a while. He is a blessing to Baltimore. The talent is just unbelievable. The activism is invigorating, and we're so just happy to have you. We have Ernest Shaw Jr. today. Thank you for coming to the box.
Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you. I just want you guys to look behind him. That's all you got to see is look behind him. Look at the colors, look at the illustrations behind him. That's just enough for anyone to see. But Brother Shaw, I want you to tell the people a little background. We're going to talk about your work and what you do, and you have an ongoing exhibit right now. We're definitely going to step into that. But I want the people to know who you are, like where you from, what you do, because you do some teaching here. You do a lot of things here. So tell us what you do and be more.
So, um, you might see artist educator on my CV. I prefer the term image maker and educator, but for you, depending on the context, I'll say artist. I teach now currently at Green Street Academy. I'm a 20-year veteran of Baltimore City Public Schools.
Mm.
I also teach adjunct at MICA.
Okay.
I'm on the faculty of Baltimore City Community College, and recently I was added to the graduate faculty at Towson.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the teaching that I do. I'm a muralist and a studio artist, and I have a studio at the Motor House in Station North.
And that's what we're looking at you. That's where you are today. You're sitting in your studio.
Yes, yeah. This is my studio at the Motor House on the second floor. And I've been at the Motor House since it opened in 2015. This is actually my third studio space here.
Well, can you just move out of the way a little bit and tell the people what's behind you? We gotta talk about that.
So one of my favorite people
Mm.
uh, is James Baldwin. He is, if I had a trinity, a holy black trinity, James Baldwin would be one of those people. And it would be James Baldwin, Malcolm X, and Nina Simone.
Mm.
And if if we were to make it a starting five,
Let's do that.
you could definitely add Toni Morrison. You could add James Coltrane, and then coming off the bench, sixth man of the year, W.E.B. Du Bois. And there are definitely others, Dr. John Henrik Clarke.
I'm telling you, you can keep going.
Sylvia Winter, Franz Fanon,
Ah.
some artists, some social scientists, some historians, but these are many of the people. August Wilson, definitely August Wilson.
Ah.
These are people who strongly influence my work and my pedagogy as an educator.
You know what? You move through scholars to musicians, to culture, people who talk about our culture. Those people that you name it's just amazing synergy there. They all bring so much to the table, but it all belies in scholarship
Absolutely.
and music.
Mhm.
And I think that embodies the African,
Oh, absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
go
so
ahead.
that to hear you're starting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you got a lot of starting, bro. And to hear your starting team,
Mhm.
it's amazing. Those names are amazing, and that picture with James Baldwin, it's like he's sitting there. I mean, my goodness, his eyes are so poignant. It's like, wow.
He's probably the second most illustrated person. You know, if you look at a collection of my work, he's probably
Uh-huh.
second. Number one will be my daughter. You know,
Excellent.
yeah, I've
Excellent.
reproduced my daughter's image probably more than anyone.
And that's
Yeah,
a beautiful thing for a father. I love to hear that.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
can you move around and tell us what's on the other side over here? When
That's
yeah,
Thelonious Monk. You know,
yes.
if we were just doing musicians, he would be in my top 5
What do
musicians.
you, okay. All right,
Absolutely.
give me the top five for the musician. Let me hear that.
Coltrane, definitely. Thelonious Monk. Ooh,
Come on.
here's where it gets tough. Um, I'm heavy into jazz. You know, I put Miles in there, not even for the music. I put Miles in there for style.
Miles is a bad boy.
Right. I put him in there for style. But definitely Nina Simone,
Nina Simone, yeah.
you know. And then I throw Rakim in there. Simply because I'm of the hip hop generation.
You almost made me come out my seat.
Yeah.
You better, that's my man. Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah, rock him in serious
Mm-hmm.
business. I mean, if you go there, I mean KRS-One, you got some, but rock him with
KRS-One.
his flow is
Yeah.
just serious. Love that, love that. And then we got something on the other side, you know, just pieces of that. So I have to show that's your student, you said, over on the other
Yeah.
side.
That young brother, when I started uh, teaching at Green Street 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
he was a freshman and he was the loudest, the most boisterous, the most rambunctious kid in the bill. He walked with, and I'm speaking a language that some people understand, with that eschua leg by energy, right?
Yeah.
And he was largely misunderstood. Don't get me wrong, he he's from the streets, right?
Uh-huh.
And he was a big fish in a little pond.
Mm.
You know, so but he and I connected early in his high school career, and we maintained that relationship up until his graduation last year. He graduated, but his name is Jamal, and it just so happens he had some relatives, aunts and little cousins and stuff that actually lives in the same block as my mother.
Oh.
So when I would go see my mom, I'm buying these little kids ice cream and everything. Didn't know it was his family, you know. So that also helped strengthen the bond
I'll
between.
tell you how the world is, man.
Yeah, and
You never know.
you never know.
You never know, man. And he graduated. That's accomplishment. Excellent.
Strong young brother with leadership ability. You know, as many of our young brothers and sisters are, mostly misunderstood. Their energy is misunderstood,
Absolutely.
um, and I've been in education long enough, and I've had enough training as an educator to some and education. When I say I've had enough training in education, I'm talking mostly outside of the profession of education,
Yes.
so that when I went into education, there's certain things that, based on my life's experiences, um, that were natural to me. I'll say that, and my upbringing.
Mm.
You know, based on my upbringing, there were certain things that were natural to me. So I'm blessed. Out of the 20 years I've taught, 18 of them has been in West Baltimore.
Oh wow.
You know, yeah. So
So you in the thick of things.
yeah, pretty much.
And
Never
that's
never felt like my life was in danger. You know
okay.
what I mean? Never felt threatened. I've seen some stuff too, but it always felt like home, and it feels like home. You know, uh,
Mm.
and it is home actually.
It is home.
Literally, it is home.
Literally. Yeah.
So I mean, my students are my people.
Ah. That's what we have to, the students got to be the peoples. I love that.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love that. So listen, I want to hear a little more about, you know, this gift that you have. Because we're going to get back to your teaching, and of course you have this exhibit that's fire. But
Mhm.
I want to really get into how did you know this gift was, that you had this gift, and the build out, because I know you didn't start with all these beautiful colors and all these beautiful lines. I know it took some some
No,
working on your skill. So when did you know that that you was going to be an artist? When did you know? How did you know?
well, I knew there was interest at a very early age, but when I knew I was going to be an artist,
Uh-huh.
I had flunked out of University of Maryland College Park. I had gone there for 2.5 years, pledged to fraternity, had the time of my life. I met some folk who have been lifelong brothers and friends since, and we talking late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
But yeah, I flunked out of there, and I went to Coppin for a little bit. Ended up at Morgan, and it was at Morgan there was a woman named Angela Franklin, a professor, and she saw, not that I was cocky, but I knew I could draw in paint. Like I could always draw in paint, but there was something missing, and she taught a course called African Americans in Art. And I went to the Baltimore School for the Arts. We took art history 4 straight years for the entire year.
Okay.
I went to University of Maryland College Park, took some art history classes with some preeminent art historians. I had never taken an African American art history course, a Black art history course.
And where did you take that? Let's say that again. Where did you take that at?
Morgan State University.
The national treasure. You know, I graduated from Morgan, so I'm gonna have you say that
No.
3 more times.
1992. Angela Franklin in the old fine arts, Murphy Fine Arts.
The old Murphy, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We had, when it rained, our studios leaked.
It was wet.
No heat in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful place to be.
Wow.
So I took her class. She told me on the first day she's going to teach rings around me. She did. And that course changed my life because after that, I went back and took all the art history courses I had taken over, even though I had transfer credits for them. Took modern art history 1 and 2, contemporary art, African art, because her course connected all the dots for me. And
why would you say that? Why? What was it about that course?
Because, I knew my parents laid a very good foundation as far as understanding who I am and where I come from and my people, but relative to the painting and the drawing and the creative side specifically, seeing artists, because one of her strategies was to start current and teach backwards from a historical perspective. So things were very relevant, and to know that there were artists during what is called enslavement, not just crafts people, like the narrative they like to spin, but even some of the crafts people were so highly skilled, they were really artists or artisans. The blacksmiths, the carpenters, they didn't just create furniture. It was very ornate. You had some Adinkra symbols and things of that nature,
even the millwork that we see and the steel that we see,
absolutely.
that came from our hands.
Yep. You interviewed Nika Namdi, and she does the hood hike,
and right? I've done it.
And during that hood hike, sometimes you will go across or run across some iron fences.
Yes.
Made by blacksmiths.
Yep.
With the Adinkra symbols in it.
Absolutely.
And she would point that out. So, those folks weren't just laborers. You know what I mean? But knowing that and learning that, making that connection, it began to give my work voice. Purpose. And that class put me on a trajectory of developing my work from a scholar. You mentioned the word scholarship earlier. It goes so much. It goes so far and beyond simply having skill. It's knowing that your work, your talents, some believe that their gifts are not yours simply for your own self-aggrandizement, not for your benefit. They're really for the people.
Yeah.
I'm just a vessel. I don't mean to sound corny, but
it's the truth, though. I get what you're saying.
That's
So this course put you on this path of activism. Sounds like.
It's interesting you should use that term. There's an artist named Arthur Jafa, who I am a follower of his work. I'm an admirer of his work and of his approach to the work. He interchanges the word alchemist with activist. And I prefer to use that term largely because there are people like Nika, people like Erica Bridgefoot, people like, I would say Erin Maben is more of an artist activist than I am. I'm more of an artist alchemist.
Love it.
And there's some, it's a Venn diagram. There's some intersectionality there. But
so tell me what that means, because some might not be sure what the alchemist is.
so one of my favorite books also is titled The Alchemist. But an alchemist is someone, relative to the way I use the term, who transforms, influences, impacts, elevates, assists in the elevation
Sure.
of one. And this is part of my educational approach, from folks being creatures of habit to being more evolved beings as a result of interacting with the work. Now that's long-term goal. That doesn't happen, that's not a short-term goal. But over time, considering the amount of people who may see my murals, many of which are in areas that could be considered the hood. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say I take pride in that, but I would prefer that my work rests in places where I think it would be most appreciated. And that's in places that could be defined as, and Nika would use the term blight, where you may find blight. Because I see that differently. In those neighborhoods, there are people who's lived in those neighborhoods for generations, decades.
And when they started, it wasn't blighted. This is exactly.
And let's understand the blight is intentional.
It's very intentional.
It should not be a reflection of the people in those neighborhoods. It should be a reflection of the system that intentionally sought to create that. So I want my work to highlight those people, those generations of people who have lived there since before the blight, and I like to honor those folks.
Love that. And that's important. I just went into Upton just recently, and they commissioned a young artist to draw on the boards, the wooden boards in the neighborhood in Upton of houses that they're going to sell. And they're listed by Chris Cook, a realtor. And I just don't understand that we have to endure the blight. You create the blight. You make us draw our cultural symbols on the blight. And then who lists the blight is not of our community. Yeah. That's a problem for me.
No, I can dig it.
You understand what I'm saying? And so when you say that is, we in our communities, blight is intentional, and then they got the poverty pimps that come in. And it's just an awful situation. And so Baltimore has a lot of that. That's not this interview, but you made me think of that when you said blight is intentional.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it is. It absolutely is. You don't just get to blight. Somebody has to. That's a systematic issue.
The system is not broken.
The system is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Doing what it's supposed to do. It's not exactly how it's supposed to play out.
Absolutely love it. That's what I wanted to pull out of you, and you just dropped it on me like, ow, like that. All right, so now you knew that you could paint. You knew that you could draw at an early age. You took this wonderful class. First of all, you took classes at University of Maryland. You went to the School of Art. So art has been very prevalent in your movement in your life. Yeah. But when you got to the national treasure, let me be clear on that. You took a class that started your path into activism and being able to see the contributions of Africans.
Absolutely.
Love that. And so you're a West Baltimore native. How did you now get into a spot where, listen, I'm going to teach, I'm going to stay mostly where I live, because you have an incredible talent. We can see it. And you could have taken it anywhere. So what made you stay on Planet BMore?
Well, my maturation process was not a short maturation process. I graduated from Morgan at 31 years of age. Yeah. Co-parented 2 children with someone from my neighborhood, literally that lived 4 doors down from me.
Ooh. You didn't go far, bro.
It was a
They said an
family.
apple don't fall how far from the tree.
You know,
You,
and then, we and during Emerson Village,
okay.
this was still during a time where community was community.
Yes.
You know, um, so it was a beautiful thing for my children to be able to walk out of one grandparent's house and without even putting on shoes, ride their big wheel or walk up the street
Oh wow.
to their other grandparents' house. That was they had a wonderful early childhood. You know, uh, so I graduated from Howard University at 35 years of age. Now,
Oh
in
wow.
between, yeah, so for a few years at Morgan, I worked at Bethlehem Steel when Bethlehem Steel was still Bethlehem Steel. Third
Is that
generation.
right?
Yeah,
Wow.
swing shift, 40 plus hour week job. And again, I can't, I mean, I want to say this before we get heavy into the interview. I come from a two-parent household. My father provided everything. You know,
Mm.
whatever paintbrush, whatever materials. Look, socks, underwear, long johns in the wintertime. We always had food on the table, even when he was laid off, right?
Man.
And my mom's worked full time. And my mother, it was a wonderful balance because she provided I would say, um, cultural capital. In that she would, after school, she would say, "Meet me in front of Enoch Pratt Library," and there'd be a bus there, and we get on the bus and ride to DC to the National Gallery. Or she took me to see me and my brother. We out in the back playing touch football in the summer. We don't want to come in. She said, "Come in, wash up, change your clothes." And we upset. We didn't want to play with our friends. And then she would take us down to the Lyric to see Africa Oye, which was a culmination of groups from different parts of Africa that traveled the world.
Wow.
Fast forward 20 years, I began to study traditional West African music and dance, drum and dance. And I did that for 20 years.
Mm.
It took me 2 years before I realized that the type of drum I was initially playing, which was djembe,
Jimbe.
I saw in that Africa Oye performance, Percussion to Guinea, a West African percussion group from Guinea, West Africa. I saw them play that, and that was my favorite part of the performance. It didn't click until 2 years after I had been studying djembe intently. But it's that type of upbringing I had, that balance between my mom and my dad. Whatever interview I do, whatever talks I do, I make sure I highlight the contribution of my parents and other family members, too, but definitely, my parents. Because it's not easy raising an artist child.
Mm.
My father used to tell me all the time, "Boy, your chairs don't go, they're not all the way up to the table." Your chairs are not pushed all the way up to the table.
I love that. Never heard that before.
Yeah.
Because he didn't understand where you were coming from. He came from an artistic space. Yeah. And he was a worker. He was a
he,
producer.
he was. He
Yeah.
hung in there with me, though, He hung in there with me
He
until I
hung
was
in there with
in
you.
Maryland. And when I flunked out of College Park, he said, "All right, you got to pay for it yourself now." And that's when I went to work at Bethlehem Steel. And from some of the benefits from working at Bethlehem Steel, paid my tuition at Morgan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, at least they nurtured what they saw in you. Your mom did
Yeah.
and your father did until you didn't until you didn't act right. And they're like, listen, you gotta do it yourself now.
Yeah.
So they did nurture that. And because a lot of times we kind of raise our children to the movie, like get a job, you have to do this, you have to do that. But
Get a
children
plan B.
yes, children definitely have their own expression of who they're going to be very early.
Mhm.
And sometimes we don't pay attention, and they
Mhm.
paid attention, I see.
They
So
did.
your sibling, is he an artist or is he
You know what? This interesting thing. My younger brother. I have two brothers and a sister.
okay?
I have an older sister. When my parents met, they each had 1-year-old children.
Oh wow.
So my mom's had my older brother. He's 6 years older than me. My dad had my older sister. She's 6 years older than me. So
Amazing.
yeah, my older brother was very athletic. My younger brother, and we all dabbled in sports, but my younger brother could write very well. But for some reason, he would win oratory contests, writing contests, and wouldn't tell my parents. And
Oh.
this was before the internet, so you couldn't go online and check your kids' grades. He was in gifted and talented at I think Rodnell Heights at the time, and my parents never knew. They didn't know until they went to parent teacher conference at the end of the year that my brother was in, So he kind of it may have been a little difficult for him being 3 years younger than me, and I have been in gifted and talented GATE programs, being bused to schools ever since second grade.
Oh.
So he never really pursued that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, so you trying to say you took all the shine?
Yeah, until he graduated from college before me.
Ooh. and then your shine dull.
That's the only thing he ever beat me in.
Oh man, but you still did it.
Let me tell the story. So that motivated me to definitely finish school.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so we know how you started. And now teaching. Because let me tell you something. Teaching, especially in Baltimore City schools, takes a special person, brother. I want to tell you. So for you to have done it before technology,
Yeah.
before they've actually repaired some of these schools and these newer schools that is popping up, which is a beautiful thing. But what made you want to teach this gift?
Well, I had worked with children ever since I was a teenager. So I loved working with children. I had just graduated from Morgan, 2001. I was 31 years of age. And at this point, I had friends, contemporaries and friends that had been in education for 7, 8, 9 years. So I had a friend, Donye Bushrod, who worked at central office in the special ed department. He knew Walbrook at the time. It was in Walbrook Junction.
Yes.
That Walbrook Senior High School needed an art teacher. And he suggested that I apply for the position. And I got the job. So I could walk around Hilton from the home where I grew up to work. And I got to say, teaching the first 2 years under Andre Bunley, a lot of folks know Dr. Andre Bunley.
Yeah, he locked the doors. Dr. Bunley. Locked the doors and
I would say outstanding educator.
Wow.
Outstanding educator. It was a blessing. Baptism by fire, of course. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it in any other way.
Okay. So you are the amazing Andre Bunley. Okay. So yeah, you are a late student too. So you graduated in the 2000s. Man.
Yeah, graduated high school in 87. Graduated in 2000.
Yeah, you graduated college in 2000s. Wow. But you kept going. You went on to Howard and kept going. So that's amazing. And so you went to teach and you've never left.
The plan was to do 5 years and then jump into the art full time. That was the plan. So I started in 2001. My daughter was born in 96. My son was born in 99. So, and their mom is an educator. And she had a couple years in. And again, I had a lot of friends who were educators. So after that 5 years, as a father, I couldn't let those benefits go. I couldn't let that steady income go. And it was art, so it was still art related. And what a lot of people I don't think what they are aware of is that I didn't do art on the side. I had 2 full-time gigs. Art was never a part-time gig.
You never made it part-time.
It was never part-time. Now, that doesn't mean that I couldn't have put more time into it if I didn't have a full-time job. However, if I didn't have that full-time job, the stress associated with making sure the lights stay on, the stress associated with having health insurance, the stress associated with feeding your children, that takes away from my lights are on a sensor. So if I don't move, they go out. But that takes away from the creative process because you're worried and you're under so much stress. You're worried about, regular everyday life issues. So having a steady job takes away that stress. Even though it takes hours away from your day, it also removes the stress and allows you to be creative. So it's a give and take, a push and pull.
Push and pull. Okay. So you kept that more or less for the family, and now it's the love of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah,
is
well, I'm getting close. I'm getting close to that time. It's,
they push you to the edge.
yeah, you can't stay in the trenches too long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So full time, the art was always full time. So you always produce pieces,
Mm-hmm.
as I can see,
Mm-hmm.
during this time. So you had that's how you have an incredible gift. You can teach all day. You can
Mm-hmm.
rear children for and your family, and still bring these type of pieces out. Because one piece would take me 10 years,
And
and so that
yeah,
tells me you have an incredible gift.
well, the education I figured out after about 6 years of teaching
Uh
that
huh.
it's not a job. There's
Mm.
and it's a career. So I began. So the art began to influence my teaching, and the
Oh,
teaching began to influence my art.
love it.
So it's not like I punch a clock there and I go to the studio. Like there's give and take. My students feed my creative process. Being among them, uh, part of it keeps me young. You know,
Hmm.
it's more than just what sneakers they tell me to buy and not to buy. Actually, this and I always forget who said this, but it's true. As a teacher, where could you find such splendid company?
Ooh.
And that doesn't mean it's not a tough gig at times. Different aspects of it doesn't take a lot of energy, but really, where could you find more splendid company? Our product, if I should say, or outcome, is not an inanimate object. It's a human being.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a human being. And I've taught long enough, that my first group of students are adults with children. I'm teaching now their children.
Wow.
So it's an investment in everyone's future, including me. So when you engage the young people, it's an investment in your own future. And once I began to understand that, I began to change the way I taught, or my approach to education changed.
And that's beautiful. If we all systems, the
Mhm.
country would think like that, where would we be? We would see violence quell. The things that we see young people actually doing, that would quell. Because it just takes that type of feeling for you to go into school and you know that someone cares about your outcome
Mhm.
and want to be in your company and want to teach you.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful thing. We've standardized everything, but the standard is love and true instruction.
Mhm.
That should be the standard. But we're teaching kids to pass tests
Mhm.
and having these unrealistic intentions with them, and now we have what we have:
Mhm.
a lot of chaos.
I tell folks all the time, when you often see it on the news. I don't really watch the news much,
I
but
don't.
you see when they flash the mugshots or they talk about our young people who have perished. I
Yes.
said, pull their transcript and it'll tell you all you need to know. And I'm not talking about just their high school transcript. Go back to kindergarten,
Mm.
6 years of age. Those of us, we all know someone who deals with some sort of addiction, who struggles with uh, with substance abuse, right?
Uh-huh.
Go back and check their school records. I guarantee you, there's a percentage of them who suffer from lead poisoning
Mm.
in some way, shape, or form. Because I don't know if I should say this, but it's Black
Yes,
Box
you
Radio.
should.
It's Black Box Radio. So,
Yes, say
so
it.
I think it was about an entire decade when folks knew that there was lead in the water in these schools, and nothing was done.
Mm.
Nothing was done. So you got to think lead poisoning. Large percentage of our students who
Yeah.
who are in these streets struggle with that. Uh, were early. They were medicated too early because folks didn't know how to teach
Mm.
our people. You know what I mean? Like they didn't
Yes.
understand their energy and how they moved in their spirit.
Yes.
So they uh, diagnosed them and you put a 5 or 6-year-old child on a drug, which is equivalent to, it has addictive qualities equivalent to heroin.
Heroin, exactly.
What are your expectations for their future at 5 and 6 years old?
Thank you.
Before I
What do
was,
you expect from them?
yeah, before I was an educator, I worked at Village Family Network, and they did wraparound services for children who were on state-assisted health care. So it was my job to mentor children, take them to therapy sessions, make sure they had their medication, and took their medication readily. Like that was my gig before I became an educator. So I would pick up 6, 7-year-old children from school, and then have to drive them. They allowed me, due to my job, I could pick up their medication for them, take them home, monitor them, and my heart bled for those children because I could see. And then when I became an educator, it began to make sense to me. So yeah, we could talk about that all night. Like,
oh, no, Brother Malcolm said, if they can't treat you right, they can't teach you right.
Can't teach you right.
They can't. And we have to understand that is the truth. It is so unfortunate how mishandled the African is in
Absolutely.
so many ways.
Yeah.
From our culture, from our children, from education, every standpoint. When you're in a culture that does not, because you protect what you respect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And
Yep.
if you don't respect it, you do anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you see happening to Africans. When we call ourselves African Americans, but that's what you see what's happening to us.
Yeah, I don't use the term African American, though
Me neither.
I understand I understand what I believe to be the intention behind creating the terminology.
Absolutely.
That's not how I self-identify.
Me neither. And people say I have a problem, but I'm African. Hate to tell you. That's what I am. That's what I'm going to be. And that's what I've
Yeah.
always been.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a conversation we can keep forever because, what's dear to me is what's happening in education.
Mm-hmm.
Because I understand that it was what liberated me. Not to the point where it made me this heavy person. It exposed my mind to the power of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can think, you're not irrational.
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to kind of deal with what's in front of you. But when you can't think, you're not educated, you're not exposed, then your irrational thought becomes these preemptive movements that get you caught up in this system. And so that's why education is being monitored the way it is, because if you got a bunch of thinkers, you won't have a bunch of followers. I hear that. I can tell you that.
And it's not really education, it's schooling. It's a difference between education and schooling.
It's schooling.
I give thanks to Brother Nati because much of what I learned that I would consider to be,
that's a big name right there, Brother Nati.
I would hope that he would agree. I graduated from the University of Everyone's Place.
Because that brother is tough. That's a heavy brother. I'm so sad that he doesn't get on the radio anymore.
Yeah. Because
that's a bundle of knowledge. Bundle of knowledge. Yeah.
Yep.
And everyone, shout out to Everyone's Place. Go get you some books. I think the next generation is in there now. So get them some love. I love that.
Yep.
I love that. And so we're going to move on because, listen, this teacher thing, we'll be on it forever. But, I'm very happy that you're in the schools and you feel that way about our children because they need this. They need someone who cares.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely need that. So, okay, you're doing exhibits. So are you commissioned? How does your artwork leave your house or leave your studio? People can buy it. Are they commissioned? How do you do your artwork? How's it set for?
It's nuanced and layered,
okay.
Right? And to be fully transparent, I am just really beginning to enter the market or new markets relative to selling my work from my studio. Do not have gallery representation.
Is that right?
For a long time, I didn't even want gallery representation, and I would still be a little apprehensive. It would have to be a very good fit for me. to develop that relationship with a gallery. I'm not against it like I used to be as a youngin, but it would have to be a good fit because the art world is it's a byproduct of all the other systems. You know, we talk about education. The art world is
same way.
similar. It's a part of the overall system. So I'm learning now at 52 years of age how to navigate it. You know, I'm just learning how to navigate that successfully. So I have a website, like just basic stuff. I have a website. There are ways people can get in touch with me. I have Instagram,
Yes,
which
you
is
do.
huge. Instagram is huge.
Huge. Yeah.
I'm beginning to develop relationships with collectors.
Excellent.
You know, so I'm not just known as a muralist now.
Yes.
You know, and the way the art world works, as you begin to grow your practice, you may get selected for a group show here and a group show there with certain curators. So, you know, a few weeks ago, I was in LA in a group show curated by CCH Pounder, who's an actress and a collector and former gallerist. A few months before that, I was in a group show. It started at Bowling Green University. It's now at the Harvey Gantt Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in that exhibition, my work was exhibited between a gentleman that was on my thesis committee, James Phillips, who I admire greatly, and an author whose work it strongly influenced my thesis. And, you know, so it was really an honor to be in those two group shows. So again, now I'm in group shows. Eventually, people get to know your name.
Yeah.
Folks can see you. You know, you in company with other artists. Sure. Other group shows will come up. I do have a solo show here in Baltimore at Top of the World, curated by Kirk Butts of Baltimore Office and Promotion in the Arts. It's my first solo show since 2019. I had a solo show here at the Motor House prior to the pandemic. But Kirk has been very instrumental in assisting me in getting my work seen by people who wouldn't normally have seen my work.
Yes.
You know, because that's what it's about, exposure. That's really what
it is.
When I was young, I made some mistakes, you know. Well, you could call them mistakes, but I had different intentions with my work. I really just wanted to paint. You know, I really had no desire to be a part of the hustle and bustle of the art world. You know, I just wanted to create work and be appreciated for the work that I created. And not much has changed. I'm just older and a little wiser, and recognize that I'm probably not going to teach forever. You know?
So establish something else, a legacy, and put your pieces in places. Yeah. Wow. So the top of the world. That's what we are. You know, that just was that was like, let's see, about a month ago, right? It's been up for a month.
Early February.
Early February, yeah.
What's interesting about that, I'm born and raised in Baltimore. I had never been to the top of the world.
Me neither. You introduced me to the top of the world. What you mean?
I've never been there. So my first time there was in a meeting talking about the exhibition. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm from here. How do, you know? But that's part of what life's all about. You know, being exposed to new things and different things.
Absolutely. And I haven't still been up there. So that's what we're going to do together. But I haven't been on the top of the world yet. Yes.
And let's be clear. It wasn't for me. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? It wasn't a part of my lived experience. And I don't feel any kind of way about that. Because we know Baltimore is not one city. It's never been one city. Very
one city.
From its inception.
Absolutely.
You know, intentionally segregated.
Yep.
So, you know.
So that's an achievement. That's achievement to actually be there. And there's definitely going to be eyes on your work that might normally not see or know
Mm-hmm.
what you do. It's great exposure. This is the World Trade Center
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
Baltimore, and it sits on the harbor. So it's centrally located, and it's showing the hood, bruh.
Yeah. Yeah. You walk around the entire observation level and you see it all.
You see it. You see the whole city.
You see the whole city.
So listen, this is definitely not the hood. There's a whole new hood. It is in the net, so it's down at the harbor, and I tell the folks, listen, support this brother. Go
Yeah.
see something, and actually be exposed to something you might not normally be exposed to. The top of the world is probably something you should see. Once I see
Absolutely.
it, you're going to hear about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And before I forget,
go ahead.
I want to give thanks to Morgan as well.
Mm.
I have a solo show at the James E. Lewis Museum in either January or February 2023. And that opportunity came by way of Dr. Schroeder Cherry, who now runs the James E. Lewis Museum at Morgan State University. He was just here 2 days ago, picked up 3 pieces. They have I believe, a student and faculty show coming up. And as an alumni, I get to show a few pieces in the next week or so. I get to show a few pieces in that exhibit.
Well,
So
I love it.
yeah. So talking speak of Morgan State University.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is excellent. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna be there for that 2023. You're not gonna get that, ain't the top of the world. That's top of my world right there, bro.
Yeah, there it is.
You ain't keeping me out of that. I'm gonna be there for that. That's amazing. And Morgan is doing amazing things over there.
Mm-hmm.
They're spreading like mustard, and they're really doing it over there. And like this museum you're talking about, I didn't even know they had that. You
Yeah.
know, things when I was there didn't have. They got all of these curating and these things, these new spaces at Morgan. That's just amazing, and I'm so glad that you're able to put your work in a HBCU, which
Yeah.
actually you graduated from. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It saved my life.
Mine too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine too. I came at 17, and what I will say is I didn't know who the heck I was. Who knows who they are at 17?
Yeah.
And I was let loose without really a lot of rules, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to really say something to myself, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be some shit, or
Mm-hmm.
you want to do some shit? You know what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah. By the time I got to Morgan, like I said, I developed some friendships at Maryland that to this day, I mean, they're very meaningful to me and always will
Okay.
be. When I got to Morgan, it was about business.
Ooh.
I never hung out on the bridge, not one.
And you was an older student too,
I was an older student.
Yeah, you was an older student. Because the bridge, let me tell you something. I got imprints. You might see my shoes imprinted in the sea. Stayed on the bridge.
That's right.
But the bridge is new now. When I was on the bridge, it moved when you moved.
Yep. I remember.
But now that bridge is sitting pretty, bro. But when I was on that thing used to shake and rattle and roll. But we spent a lot of time there. We were really young. So you was there at an older student, so you was about business. But I have relationships, and I tell anyone, listen, college, which technology is going to circumvent, it's something that I think everyone should be a part of.
And by relationships, let me be clear. Relationships with students at Maryland. When I got to Morgan, it was the relationships with the faculty. Those relationships with those professors, Guy Jones, Ken Royster, Angela Franklin, Arlene Sayhat, and that's just the art department. We're not talking about Professor Sarah Caberhan. It was just, the HBCU experience. I don't have to explain.
I know, but I want others to. A lot of times we put, and I'm not negating PWIs. Don't think I am. I'm not.
Right.
But I think every Black person, Black child, needs to go in a space where Black is power, where Black is everywhere, where Black is in every space of it, where they can actually create relationships that's going to be a part of them. My friends from Morgan are still my friends. And now they're professors, they're doctors, now they're professionals. So it's amazing how we was just stinking kids. And now we're adults that's doing amazing things, you know, and this is and we're all Black, and we experience this Black experience that you can't get at any school but at HBCU. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And so you can send your kids wherever you want, you know, do what you want, but the experience of an HBCU is nothing close to it, I think.
No.
And that's all I got to say.
Right.
That's all I got to say.
There's nothing I can add to that.
Good. I'm glad we're on the same page. You know, ain't many times a Black man and a Black woman on the same page. So I take that.
I'm learning.
I'm learning. You learning. Okay. I'm learning. I love it. I'm learning too. So listen, what is next? What I hear the 2023. So how are we going to build this thing out? What do you look, because you said you're learning now that teaching might be something you do for the love of it. But the love of your art and your gift, how do you see it expanding in the 21st century?
That's a good question. Because it's so uncertain. That art world is uncertain. You know, you could get drafted and then blow your knee out, and then, you know, tear your Achilles.
Going to football and basketball. I love this about you.
Dreams unfulfilled. Nah, so it's very unpredictable. Right now, though, it would appear that Black artists or artists who define themselves as Black, African artists are getting some, you know, being shown some love in what could be defined as mainstream, right? I don't know if that's sustainable. So I'm not really putting any if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet that it's sustainable. Having said that, there are ways you can sustain yourself. You know, listen, even if I retire from teaching and financially the art, because I'm doing pretty good right now, but financially the art, things, you know, something happens, I'll just go back to work. You know, I've always worked, and I've always had more than one job. You know? I've always done this and done that. You know, so I don't fear work. You know, I'm not saying it's a great thing to punch someone else's clock. You know what I mean? Sometimes the cotton is higher over here than it is over here. But
you got to put the cotton in it. Let's say candy.
Okay, let's do that. I prefer to work for myself. Yeah. But if push came to shove and I had to figure something out, fill out a W-4 for somebody, you know, I'd be okay with that. But
you got skills.
Yeah, I got skills, you know, but really, again, at this age, it's all about being healthy. You know, trying to snatch a little bit of peace here, a little bit of peace there, you know, thinking about my daughter, like how is she doing?
Yes.
You know, wanting to live a healthy life with the least amount of stress possible. Not stress-free, because some stress is good stress. Keeps you motivated, keeps you moving. But, you know, at this point, I'm just trying to live the rest of my life more peaceful, more fulfilling way. You know, less drama, things of that nature. So whatever comes my way, you know, I'll just roll with the punches.
That's a good place to be too.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we try to push the envelope and we seal it ourselves.
Yep.
But, you know, you leave the envelope open and let somebody put some papers in it.
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? That's how I look at it. But one of our listeners says she can't stop, Erica Youngblood, she says, I can't stop staring at the artwork behind him. It's mesmerizing. And you know what I wrote? I agree. The artwork is his own interview. I could just talk to them pieces behind you, bro. Shoot.
Yeah.
They say James' eyes is just killing me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Serious. It's serious. So you see this, you in your studio. This is BlackBoXX studio. You see these open walls, bruh. Dude, I need to pan for you. I want you to see that we got some open spaces that, you know, some stuff that you don't want. Studio. You see that right there? It's a big.
We definitely figure something out.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
We can
You
fix
know, and I'm not averse to dropping some coins. I got to come see what you got over there
it. Mhm.
for sure. I definitely got to come see. But listen, I'm telling you, it is. I wanted to talk to the artists,
Mhm.
but I'm talking to someone who seems far more bigger than just an artist.
Yeah.
I hear the scholarship, I hear the insightfulness, but I also hear love for African people.
Absolutely.
And that's the basis of our connection, is that we got to love each other and love our experience. And then I look behind you and I see how you're actually kind of cataloging the experience, from figures to just a young man that you taught. So
Mhm.
I'm just blessed to be in space with you tonight.
I, I appreciate being here. Folks don't always want to talk to me. They don't always want to listen to what you have to say. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a blessing just to be in dialogue. You
Yep.
know, I have been blessed not just with two parents, but with a wealth of mentors,
Mm.
especially during the time when I was studying traditional West African culture, music.
Mm.
You know, I um, because that study was a lot of reading, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of traveling, and a lot of meeting and getting to know some wonderful people. You know, overwhelming majority of which can be defined as African in the ways that we define African,
Sure.
wherever they come from in the diaspora.
Absolutely.
I still consider them African. I define myself as an African born and raised in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, it's a liberating thing.
It
It,
is.
it's very liberating. And that's just one of the things I try to pass on to my students. And one of the things I try to put into my work. I try to liberate the figures in my work by exhibiting a glimpse of their humanity.
Oh.
So that the viewer, whomever the viewer is, will in some way, shape, or form be in touch with their humanity by viewing a glimpse of my subject's humanity.
Mm.
You, especially that series with uh, I've done a series with students, and I continue to do images of young people because that's what's needed. We have not, or I challenge anyone to tell me relative to this country in what decade did Black folks receive first class citizenship,
Mm.
or in what decade throughout the history of this country has our humanity been validated. Sometimes our perspective on history is Civil War, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, Voting Rights or Civil Rights Act. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Election, the death of, the 60s with Evers ex Queen,
Mm-hmm.
election of a Black president, first so-called Black president, things of that nature.
Yes.
But we don't recognize that the trauma that our ancestors endured during enslavement did not stop with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. It did not stop Brown v. Board.
Uh-huh.
It didn't stop with the election of Barack Obama.
Yep.
That's not how that works. So it's
Trauma doesn't have any expiration. You gotta actually heal it. You gotta deal with it. You gotta peel it back.
mhm. And that's not, and I don't focus on history and
Mm.
cultural context simply to focus on the trauma.
Mm.
If you look at this image of my student here, he's smiling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my work is not simply steeped in the geography of struggle, but it's there.
It's there.
I don't negate that. I don't dismiss those geographies of struggle because that's a part of what makes us who we are. You know, because the triumph comes. You know, the celebration comes as a result of the victories relative to some of that struggle. So we celebrate that too. It's not all about doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the fullness of our experiences here. You
Hmm.
know?
So you're very deliberate and intentional about humanizing the struggle, and
Yeah.
also giving your subject
Yep.
a space on that, and not just being painted. You have more going on. Like I could see the expression in James's eyes and his forehead, the
Absolutely.
fold of his skin. It's like he's thinking, his hand. All
Hmm.
of that is like what's going on in that brain, in that wonderful brain.
Hmm.
And so, that's it's just amazing the expression behind you. It's so expressive and amazing. And so I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm surprised that piece is still in my studio.
Me too.
I'm surprised that piece hadn't been bought.
I think it needed to stay. I needed to see it because it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to throw you. But what would that? What would that? How many coins you got dropped for that?
I
That
can't.
can't say it on here.
No. That's
I
that's.
know. I hear you, bro. That's right. That's an in gallery conversation, right?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. So listen, we've been an hour in, and listen, I am very happy to talk to you. I am so glad I did. I always want to peel back not just what people are doing, but who they are.
Hmm.
And it's real important that anything that someone's doing is a person behind that. It's a story, and so
Yeah. Not this, and it's not me, the individual. I,
mm,
all my life, I've been surrounded by beautiful human beings, and and I'd be disappointed in myself if I didn't, before we got out of here, name some tremendous young artists that's just burning up the art scene. Megan Lewis, Will Watson, Charles Mason III, Chris Batten. Chris not that young; he close to my age. But Chris Batten, who now has an exhibition at UB Blake up right now. Um, Monica K. Rule, Jarrell Gibbs. Those are visual artists. Then you have Hot Sauce Artist Collective. Then you have folks like Condorni Fidel, D. Watkins, Chris Wilson. You know what I mean?
yeah, listen to you.
Devin Allen. Like, this is Baltimore, right?
Yes,
This is
Dito Poncho.
Larry Poncho Brown, who tried to mentor me early on, but I was a knucklehead.
Really,
Larry,
Larry's amazing.
so, and if
Yeah,
we gonna mention Larry and that generation, we got to mention, Joyce Scott. You know what I mean? Tom Miller, like, Baltimore has always, see, people are just discovering it.
it's
The,
so rich in
the
talent.
richness
Yes.
of Baltimore and its art scene, but it's always been there.
And that's the thing. I hear, so much talked about the violence, but it's a dichotomy here.
Mm-hmm.
Beautifulness,
Mm-hmm.
and then we see the violence, but that also is something that's been systematically building, and now we see the actuation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Absolutely.
wow, love that. That's what's up.
Yeah, I gotta keep moving.
I keep moving. But yeah,
Well,
so Baltimore has this rich culture of music, talent,
Easy
artistry.
Jackson,
Ah,
Abdul Ali. You know what I mean? We could sit here all day and just run down.
around the names that's here in this
Mhm.
Baltimore. So, and you are a part of that. Remember, your name is dropped. Shaw Jr.
And,
So,
and scholars. We have scholars. We have Davon Love.
let's
You know what
go.
I mean? We have poets. We have Breon, Lady
Yep.
Breon. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
Go on and on.
on and on.
On and on. We have a substantial amount of talent in Baltimore, and
Mhm.
it's a beautiful thing. And most of this talent that I've come across are Black African beings doing amazing things.
Centered in their blackness.
And there you go, centered in their Blackness, and that's
Mhm.
what makes it so phenomenal,
Yep. Yep.
so
And
phenomenal.
that's why I never moved to New York.
There,
That's why
that's it.
I stayed right here.
Be more. I call it Planet BMore, bro.
Planet
If you
BMore.
drop down here, you dropped into something. You better stay in this mess because there's a message.
That's right.
Yeah, I just interviewed Mess in the Bottle, and it made me say that, but for sure. Yeah, because she's amazing. So for real, this Be More is something else. Planet Be More. That's what I always call it. Don't believe what you see, come
Mhm.
feel it, because it's got it's really rich and textured.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So listen, we on our way out. I want you to leave an inspirational jewel for the folk. Leave East Shore Junior's jewel.
E. Shaw Jr.'s Jewel. Oh, that's funny. I am focusing on Octavia Butler's work with my students now, right? And one of the things she says is, I think and I'm gonna mess this quote up, but our quote for today was, and I'm paraphrasing now.
Okay.
But sometimes we forget that we sometimes mistakenly dehumanize the enemy. Right. And again, I'm paraphrasing. That's not word for word, but we sometimes forget not to dehumanize the enemy. Right. So so coming out of that conversation with my students, here's what I got out of the conversation I had with my students today. That oftentimes the enemy becomes the enemy because they attempted to dehumanize you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you then turn around and attempt to dehumanize them, you've become that which you're fighting against.
Ooh.
So my wisdom is to fight against, struggle not becoming that which I'm fighting against. In my work, I wish to dismantle racism, white supremacy, forms of all forms of systemic oppression.
Uh-huh.
In doing so, I can't become that which I'm fighting against. You know,
And it's very easy to.
it's very easy to.
Very easy to.
Right?
Something that hurts you, you want to harm it.
It's painful.
It's painful. Yeah.
You know, it's painful.
Absolutely painful. Listen, you are shining light in Baltimore. I really appreciate you dropping this on me today. The beautiful artwork. You are art form. It's like you done painted yourself into the picture. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And I appreciate it. You're powerful.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. A powerful black man that's putting it on the canvas. That's what's so beautiful. Because that's gonna outlive us, bro.
Yeah, true that. I'm
I'm
okay with that. I don't want to be here forever.
You better know it. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
You don't want to be here forever. Listen, we appreciate having you here. Thanks for laying the jewels and the knowledge and us actually knowing who's the man behind all of this great work. Mm-hmm. So, Black Boxes, we boxed up and now. Can we get some deuces from you, bruh? That's right.
Always. I give you a little bit of that, some of this.
Love that. That's what's up. Don't go nowhere. I'm going to end the broadcast, but don't go nowhere.
You got it.